Welcome to the West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and across the globe. As this week the President wrapped up a 4-country trip to Asia before honoring the Teachers of the Year and urging Congress to raise the minimum wage, while the Vice President announced a series of actions to help address sexual assault. That's April 25th to May 1st, or Old Seoul. On Friday morning, we pick up in Tokyo, Japan, with the President saying goodbye to the American embassy workers, sayonara to the Emperor and Empress, and then departing for Seoul, Korea, where he arrived and immediately visited the National War Memorial to honor the fallen. He also attended a naturalization ceremony for American service members and their families. The President then toured Gyeongbokgung. The sprawling historical site in the heart of Seoul has been undergoing extensive restoration since the 1990s, bringing it closer to its original form. Later, the President was received at the Blue House by President Park. After a colorful arrival ceremony, the two presidents met over a table of ancient relics. Seals, once belonging to the monarchy, were returned to Korea by the family of a war veteran who had fought in Korea decades earlier. The President reflected on this earlier in the day at the ancient Gyeongbokgung Palace, where seals like these would have been used.
We are returning some seals that a U.S. military member had taken during the war.
Yes, during the war.
As an artifact, and realized the family realized what they possessed, and the arrangements were made to return these to Korea.
Which Korean people are really thankful.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
it's
it symbolizes Korea's nationality.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, the President delivered remarks to troops, embassy personnel, and their families at U.S. Army Garrison Yongsan in Seoul. The President then said goodbye to Korea and hello to Malaysia. Landing in Kuala Lumpur, the President was received by the Prime Minister and the King in Parliament Square, before attending a state dinner later that evening at Istana Negara Palace. This trip marked the first presidential visit to Malaysia since Lyndon Johnson visited 48 years ago. Sunday morning, the President toured the National Mosque of Malaysia before meeting with the Prime Minister. The two leaders also held a news conference. The President then toured the Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center before attending a town hall meeting with young leaders from across Southeast Asia, where he spoke and took questions from the audience. On Monday, after attending signings to support U.S. exports and investment in America, the President traveled to the Philippines. Arriving in Manila, the American delegation was received in epic fashion at Malacañang Palace, where a small bamboo orchestra had assembled, playing the theme to Beverly Hills Cop. Seriously. At the palace, the President spoke at a press conference with President Aquino before joining the leader at a state dinner. The next morning, the President viewed the Comet Transport, a U.S.-made electric vehicle that will be creating cleaner air in the Philippines and jobs in America. He then spoke to Filipino and U.S. troops at Fort Bonifacio before visiting Manila American Cemetery to honor fallen soldiers. The President and the American delegation then departed Manila en route Washington, D.C. Back in Washington, the Vice President announced the release of the first report of the White House Task Force to protect students from sexual assault, and unveiled a public service announcement urging men to get involved in preventing sexual assault. Wednesday, in the East Room, "Raise the Wage" was chanted, and the President spoke to a packed House after Senate Republicans blocked a vote to raise the minimum wage for 28 million hardworking Americans.
Do not get discouraged by a vote like the one we saw this morning. Get fired up, get organized, make your voices heard. It's the right thing to do.
On Thursday, the President honored the 2014 National Teacher of the Year and finalists from the other 49 states, thanking them for their hard work and dedication each and every day in the classroom. So thanks for coming along for the West Wing Week ride this week. And remember, stay engaged with us online at whitehouse.gov. And thanks again for checking out your West Wing Week.